Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, and welcome back to Ascendria Tarot. My name is Caitlin. I am co-owner of Ascendria here in Polson, Montana. We don't have a lot of updates that I didn't share in the last video. We are starting to get some of our fall inventory in, so if you're local, come check some of the new stuff out. As far as disclaimers go, I always like to say, with tarot readings, take what resonates and leave the rest. If it doesn't feel like it fits in your life and what you're going through, the message might not be for you. Maybe you just get one nugget of wisdom in there that feels like you needed to hear that, and if that's all you get, just that one nugget, that's okay. The whole entire reading doesn't necessarily have to be for you, if that makes sense. So that, and don't get caught up on the genders of the card. The energy can pick up on present, past, perceived future, you or somebody else. It's not time specific, so even though I'm recording this on September 11th, whenever you watch it, if it resonates, it resonates. So that's why I always like to boil it all down to one phrase. Take what resonates, leave the rest. Today's video was very hard to start, very hard to get into. I'm sure we've all been hearing the trending news. Yeah? Crazy world. Crazy world. Therefore, I think the energy that is about in the air today, I think we're all feeling it. There is this fighting energy where everybody is fighting to have their voice and opinions heard, and I'm not excluded from that. I definitely feel that urge to have my voice and my opinions heard. The only kind of issue that I'm seeing is, all of this is reminding me of a scene in the Celestine Prophecy series. It's in the last book, The 12th Insight, and there are two opposing political views, groups, whatever. In the book, it's the left and the right. We have that political war going on in our own world, in our own reality. How do I want to say this? There's a danger in having such extreme polar opposite views. And that's not to say that, you can't have your opinion, your own views. But what happens when we get too extreme on one side, let's say the left. In this particular scene, in the 12th Insight, the protagonist goes into this field or whatever, and he comes upon, a bunch of, right-wing people, and, they're expressing these very, very extreme views and extreme solutions to fighting the left. And he tries to take a middle stance and say, the left isn't all wrong and the right isn't all right. And because he's trying to take a middle stance and doesn't readily agree with everything that they say, oh, well, you must be a left. You must be a lefty. And then later on in this chapter, he comes upon a bunch of left-wing people. And he finds his friend in a heated debate. And again, his friend is taking this middle stance of like, I don't think that these extreme views, I don't think all of them are right, nor do I think all of the other party is right. We all are wrong, we all are right, and again, he's trying to take this middle stance, and because he doesn't readily agree with everything that this guy's preaching, oh, well, you must be a right wing. As soon as you don't agree with something, you must be in the other extreme. And the problem with this is it creates this cycle of retaliation. The one guy in the chapter says, if you kill one of them, 10 more people join the fight. And if they kill one of us, the modes of defending themselves become more extreme. And then at that point, where does it end? So there's something to be said with choosing a extreme polar opposite and picking a side. It's, people don't understand you when you take a middle stance, a middle approach, and go, okay, well, some things on this side are right, some things on this side are right. Both of you are technically, have some areas of wrongness, and you try to meet them in the middle, and they're not willing to hear you. They're too caught up in their own views and their own extreme measures to protect those views. They are not going to hear you. So I'm feeling all of this energy today, and I could not for the life of me find the message to share in that. And so I figured, maybe I just pull cards on how to navigate all of this fighting between polar opposites. And like I said, I am not immune to this urge to argue, if that makes sense. Like, there's such a ingrained behavior within our society that as soon as you find a topic to argue on, all of us immediately choose a side. And even if you're not actively arguing with someone in person or someone on social media, you still have that side that you chose, that you agree with. And I'm not immune to it. So I thought that I would pull cards on how to navigate this fighting energy, these polar opposites. Because I might need some of the advice myself. So, yeah, let's get into it. Okay, fire signs, you're wanting to go first. So, with this chakra deck, I'd like to get kind of I wouldn't say topic, but what kind of space or area you're experiencing this polar opposite fighting energy. Where might fire signs be experiencing this fighting? Intelligence and relationships. Intelligence and relationships. I almost want to say, like, if you are experiencing this urge to argue and have your voice and your opinions heard, it could be surrounding a certain relationship, and that doesn't have to mean a romantic relationship. It could be platonic, it could be a work relationship, it could be an acquaintance, like any sort of relation to another person. And honestly, all fights happen in relation to another person, but that card tells me that it's someone you know. It's not just some random Joe Blow off the street. You know what I mean? But it almost seems to be, within this fight, it seems to be a matter of intelligence. Just like with the polar extreme opposites. If you're all the way extreme on one side, you're most likely viewing the other side as unintelligent. And we view ourselves as so much more intelligent than the other side. The other thing that the relationships card could point to is like your views on relationships. I don't know, my stance would be, there's a lot of people out there that don't take marriage seriously enough. They don't view it as the sacred commitment that it is. But, that's my view, that's my stance on it, but the trickiest part is to remember that, we are not more intelligent just because we have this view. Like, oh, I believe marriage is a sacred commitment, therefore I'm more intelligent than someone who believes in open relationships. It's hard not to think that way. What other messages? That's way too many. What other messages do you have for fire signs regarding these two cards? it's not necessarily pertaining to this specific reading, but I just remembered I was watching an astrology forecast video. It's Chris Brennan, if anybody is interested. But he was talking about this, some aspect that Mars is creating with Saturn, and how it's creating, like, this violent energy, and they were going into like all the violent events that were happening with this aspect between these two planets. I don't know, I'm seeing it. I think part of this, like, fighting energy and this, like, urge to argue is kind of part of that. And with the Two of Cups, it's definitely about a relationship. You're either arguing about, like, the essence of relationships and how a relationship should be, or arguing with someone within a relationship. I don't know, I can just feel so much, like, anger today. And I really don't feel like all of it's mine. And then we have the Hermit card. The Hermit card is like, it is intentional self-isolation. It is that alone time, that kind of meditation time, in order to hear yourself and spirit more readily. You know what, that's reminding me, you know, if this is a relationship that you care about, a good way to navigate a very heated fight is just to take a break. Even if things are not resolved yet, you're not sweeping it under the rug. But when our emotions are so charged and we're in that kind of angry state, we can get to that level of wanting to argue just for the sake of arguing. You know, even if the other person is right, when you're in that argumentative state, you can't see it. And so everything they say is going to piss you off, and everything that they say is going to make you want to, like, retaliate and fight back. And so if this is a relationship that you care about, you know, sometimes it's a good idea to take a step back. You know, obviously communicate this. You don't just want to walk away, but it's a good idea to communicate, like, hey, this is getting really heated. I don't want to say something I don't mean. I'm going to put a pin in this. We'll come back to this in, like, 5-10 minutes or however much time you need. And, you know, let's come back to this. But right now, things are too heated. Things are too charged. It's not a good idea to have a disagreement in that state. Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands is a very defensive energy. So you might not even be the one that is attacking or arguing. You might even just be getting defensive. But, you know, if things are heated and things are charged, we're not able to take a step back and reflect on whether what our partner is telling us is true or not. You know, if they're pointing out something that you did wrong that hurt them, if you just immediately get defensive, you know, you're not able to see whether they're right or not, whether whether that is a behavior or action or thought that you can change a little bit. And that's not to say that, you let other people change you, but if this is a relationship you care about, I always say, like, when you're in a relationship, you have to be willing to potentially hurt the other person's feelings, and in turn, you also have to be willing to potentially get your own feelings hurt instead of immediately getting defensive. Because who knows, that could be a behavior that is no longer serving you, and it might be a good idea to let go of that. Six of Coins. Normally this is about like a helping hand, like the energy of give and take. I mean, it's definitely about balance. The suit of pentacles, or coins in this deck, is usually about something like tangible, physical, money-wise. If you're needing help, it indicates someone coming in to help financially, or if you are the one that has the ample funds and somebody needs help, it can indicate being that helping hand. That's kind of the energy of give and take. We give help, we take help. And, I mean, I don't know if that resonates. That might be what this argument in the relationship is surrounding. Kind of this energy of give and take. Maybe even in the home, And then Page of Wands. The pages, they're always children. If we think of medieval times, the pages were always children, because that's the job that they could do, is being messengers. They haven't experienced the world, and they haven't learned much yet, so that's the job that they can do. So sometimes the pages kind of point towards a little bit of immaturity. And in Wands specifically, this one kind of, it can be exploring your own magic, your own passions. But with the cautionary aspect of this card, it's about hubris. It's about thinking that you are above consequences. And almost getting a little too cocky. Like, you get so confident, or things are going so well that you get kind of comfortable and think that, like, these bad things can't happen to you. In the context of a relationship, it's almost like thinking that you can just do whatever you want and that person's not going to leave you. That person's not going to walk away. You're above the consequences. That can't happen to you. Someone honestly may have pointed out somewhere where this energy of give and take is not equal. Maybe you're taking and not giving enough in the relationship. And part of that hubris is thinking that you can continue that and they're going to stay. I promise you, continuing that for long enough, they're gonna walk away. So I think, I don't know, I think the advice in this reading comes from the Hermit. You know, a good idea if somebody is pointing something out to you and you're feeling defensive and wanting to argue the point, take a break. Take a break until you can get to a level of understanding where, you know, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to agree with what they have pointed out to you. All I'm saying is get to a state of understanding. Put yourself in their shoes. You know, you can understand without agreeing. You can basically come with this energy of, I understand where you're coming from. I see your point. This is why I disagree. You know, it creates this level of civility. It's not such an attacking or defensive energy. It's, you meet on a plane of equality. I think that feels pretty complete. Just know, if you're getting defensive, try taking a timeout. Try to get to a level of understanding. Okay, if this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow. And I think that's it. So, have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye. Hello, Earth signs. You are up next. Like I told fire signs, with this chakra deck, I'd like to get kind of I don't know how to explain it, like kind of an area of where this fighting energy may be occurring for you. Where some of this hostile energy might be lying. Where is Earth signs feeling this energy today? Or this week? What area are Earth signs experiencing this? The sacral chakra. And guidance. Sacral chakra and guidance. I cannot, for the life of me, ever remember what the sacral chakra represents. It's always the sacral and the, like these lower chakras, I can never remember them. The solar plexus, that's what it is. Can never remember it. Maybe that, I don't know. I don't know, it may point towards a disconnect between my own sacral and solar plexus chakra. You never know. So the sacral chakra rules emotions, relationship, control, sensuality, pleasure, desire, sexuality, creativity, and healing. If anything, I think the biggest one that's kind of jumping out and standing out with the sacral chakra is the emotions of it. But I always thought the solar plexus was about emotions. Nope. It is intellect and ambition, individuality. So basically, your sense of self. So the sacral chakra has to do with those emotions, that creativity, passions, if you will. With the guidance card, when that one came out, I kind of got the sense that maybe someone tried to offer some advice, either within emotions or relationship or some creativity or just like anything within your life. I almost think somebody tried to offer some advice and you just like cannot be told anything. Just like I don't want to hear it. That, or maybe you tried to offer up some guidance and it was emotionally deep and the other person is just like, no. Don't want to hear anything you have to say. It's almost like a teenager with its parents kind of energy of like, you don't understand. You don't know what you're talking about. We'll see. Any other messages for Earth signs regarding these cards? Any other messages for Earth signs regarding these two cards? There's way too many. There we go. We have 9 of Coins, which is equivalent to the 9 of Pentacles. Which usually, it's kind of about abundance, but it's also kind of taking a look at your hard work, your, like, taking stock of your hard work and kind of feeling a little bit of pride for it, like, I did that, and kind of like, yeah, just having a little bit of pride for, all of this hard work that you've done and everything that has come of it. It's harvesting the fruits of your labor and feeling good about the labor put in. It was a very hard and bumpy ride. That work must have been excruciating because the 10 of Wands is like carrying the weight of the world on your back alone with no help. And there's such determination with this card. If you can see, like, he has all of this on his back and yet he is still crawling. He's gotten so exhausted to the point of falling down, and yet he is still crawling, determined to get to the goal. So yeah, of course take pride in your work. That was some hard freaking work. But how does that go with sacral chakra and guidance? If somebody offered you advice, I don't know, you might be getting defensive because it's like, you know, look at all this hard work that I just did. Like, you don't understand what you're talking about. Or, I feel what's resonating more is if you try to give advice on something that you learned the hard way. But it's almost like whoever you're giving this advice to just doesn't want to hear anything you have to say. And they're almost viewing your life like they see your successes and the result of your hard work, but they don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. Anything else for earth signs regarding this message? Anything else for earth signs? The Star card, which points towards, you know, hope and wish fulfillment. I keep getting the sense that you are the one who's trying to guide somebody. Either in an area of creativity or navigating their own emotions or something within a relationship. And you're trying to get them so hard to like see that, you know, they're seeing all of this success, but they're not seeing the work that went into it. And you're trying to explain to them, like, you can have this success too. Like, there is hope. It is possible for you. And they're just like, they're not wanting to hear a single goddamn word you have to say. Anything else for earth signs? Queen of Coins. Anytime we have Pentacles, it's a very practical, grounded, and patient energy. But with Queens, the Queens and the Kings are mastery, like mastery of the suit. But the Queens are, instead of like this outward mastery, they're a little bit more receptive. I mean, if you really think about it, Kings in the old times, they were a lot more outward. They created the laws and made the decisions for the country and outwardly provided, hopefully, for their people. The Queens were a little bit more nurturing, you know, like the Queen of Coins, you know, she makes sure her people are fed and clothed and have shelter and are happy. I would say the Queen of Coins also has like a head for numbers. Really good with money. Being in the suit of Pentacles, representing money. But like I said, Queens are receptive, so they take in energy, they take something that is given to them, and then they create something with it. Anything else for earth signs? Death. There's possibly an ego death here. If not an ego death, just like a transition, the death of an old version of the self and emerging and being reborn as kind of a new version. I don't think you or this other person is going through this death and rebirth process. I think you're trying so hard to get this other person to go through that transition, to start that death process, and to come out reborn on the other side. We can't force people into that. I feel like that's where your fighting energy is. Like, you're trying so hard to get somebody to see the world in a certain way. You know, you're trying to get them to have hope and believe that their wishes can be fulfilled, that it is possible. The thing is, the Queen of Coins, she got to where she is because she put in the work. She put in the work. You can't force people to do that inner work. You can't force people into a death and rebirth process. They have to choose that. They have to be willing to let that old version of themselves die before they can become this newer version. And we can't do that for them. I think the only advice I would have in that situation, if this is resonating, is to focus on the 9 of Coins. Focus on what you have built for yourself and be grateful for it. You know, you can't force other people to build the life that they want, but you can focus on what you have built and be thankful for that. That you can see our lives are made up of a million choices that we make throughout the day. You know, have gratitude that you have that awareness to make a different choice if life is not looking how you want it to look. They might not see that, but you do. And you've created something for yourself out of that. Sometimes when we level up, we want to take everybody in our lives with us, but the thing is, if they're not ready to grow to that next level, sometimes you gotta leave people behind. If they choose to sit down and stop walking, sometimes you gotta stop dragging them. You just have to let go of their hand, let them wallow in their misery, and keep walking. Keep growing. You do you, boo-boo. Anyways, that feels pretty complete. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow. And yeah, that's it. If completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, it's not coming back. So anyways, have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye. Okay, water signs. You are up next. As I told the other signs, I'm using this chakra deck to kind of get kind of an area or energy space that you might be experiencing some of this hostile energy and kind of like this urge to fight and have your opinions and your voice heard. That was quick. And we have choice. We'll have to get more cards to see what about choice is making you want to fight. Might not like some of the choices somebody's making in their lives. Or maybe somebody doesn't like the choices you're making in your life. Something about choice. I don't know, isn't that the essence of how almost every argument starts is a disagreement in how someone chooses to view something? Who knows? Any other messages for water signs regarding this card? Any other messages for water signs? Okay. We have the Hanging Man, which kind of points to kind of the essence of perspective. The Hanging Man usually says if something is not working out, look at it from a different angle, get a different perspective on it. And Seven of Wands, which is a very defensive energy. I mean, if you can see, like, everybody is pointing their wands at this guy, and he's like, you shall not pass. Where are you in this situation? You know, this could go either way. If you are the one judging somebody else's choice, you may be asked to gain a different perspective, maybe put yourselves in their shoes and try to understand why they made that choice. Or maybe a different perspective in the sense of everybody has their own free will. Everybody is free to make their own set of choices. But if somebody is questioning your own choices, because there is this defensiveness, they might be asked to find a different perspective on it. Or maybe it's asking you to find a different perspective on why they don't agree with your choice. Maybe try to understand where they're coming from. You know, maybe they're not necessarily judging the choice, but they're just wanting to know why you made that choice, or you know, maybe they made that choice in the past and it didn't work out for them, and so they're just trying to protect you. You know, it's a gain a different perspective on the situation. But then we have the Tower, which kind of represents chaos and upheaval. But it's chaos and upheaval with a very deep-rooted purpose. It's almost like if you ask for something and you're not on the path that leads to that whatever you're asking for, they're going to kind of pull the rug out from under your feet to get you on the right path towards whatever it is that you asked for. Maybe whatever choice was made caused a little bit of destruction. And if anybody knows me, I'm a firm believer that anytime we're calling in something new, something has to be destroyed and dismantled to make room for that something new. Sometimes the destruction happens first. Sometimes, you know, if we're talking about a job, you know, maybe something happened in the workplace that felt like a tower moment, and it solidified your choice to look elsewhere for a job. Maybe somebody is questioning that choice because they don't understand what happened. Or maybe you made the choice to, like, obviously it doesn't have to be about work, but maybe you made a choice that was right for you, or vice versa. Somebody made a choice that was right for them, and it created a lot of chaos and upheaval. For example, maybe somebody in the family chose to cut a family member off, and it's causing a lot of tension and chaos and disruption. Did I say disruption? I think I said that. Chaos and upheaval and disruption within the family. But you made that choice for you. Either way, whatever choice was made, it either the choice was made because of some destruction or upheaval that happened, or the choice caused the destruction and upheaval. Either way that resonates, either you or somebody else is being asked to find a different perspective on it. Like, it's almost like you're not seeing the entire picture. Like, it's almost like either you or somebody else are making assumptions and you don't understand the full story. Five of Coins, which kind of speaks towards, if it's about money, it's about poverty. It doesn't necessarily have to be about money, though. It's just being in the physical realm. This usually has something to do with being left out in the open and in need of help. Can we get one more for water signs? Something was making you unhappy. You or somebody else. You made the choice because you were unhappy. And look at that. We have the Sun, which is about joy and warmth and fun. The Sun is about confidence. Like, I mean, just look at the difference. We have poverty and depression, and then over here, the joy and the warmth and the fun. Somebody made a choice to go from the Five of Coins to the Sun. And it's not going over well with everybody. So it's almost like whoever made this choice is having to defend that choice. It's causing a lot of fighting, a lot of tension. But there's another perspective to be seen. There's all this tension. If it's not working, look at it from a different angle. Look at it from a different perspective. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Try to understand it from their perspective. Whether you are the one that made the choice and you're having to defend that choice, try to see it from their point of view on why they are questioning that choice. If you are questioning somebody else's choice, try to see it from their perspective on why they made that choice. Because whatever choice was made, it was necessary to get from this poverty and depression to something that actually is going to make them happy, or you happy. So it's a little similar to fire signs, actually, in my advice for you in regarding all of this energy. If it is resonating, try to find a level of understanding. Sometimes it's very hard, but I promise you, finding that level of understanding does not mean that you agree with their perspective. It's just, it's easier to kind of navigate this conversation and explain your side if you can figure out where they're coming from and try to gain a level of understanding. Fire signs might be for you as well. Could be. Either way, this feels complete. So if this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow. And yeah, have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye. Okay, air signs. Last but certainly not least, you are up. As I told everybody else, if you were, if you're just jumping into your sign or element, as I told everybody else, I am using the chakra deck to kind of get some insight on the area in which you might be feeling some of this hostile fighting energy. Where you might feel the urge to fight. What do you have for air signs? Where might air signs be experiencing this energy? We have inspiration. Then we have communication. If I had to go with like my first off the top thought and feeling on these two cards, it almost feels like you or somebody else are like sharing your ideas and your dreams, and it's not going over well. It's like you are not getting the support that you were expecting, but we shall see. Any other messages for air signs regarding these two cards? Two of Coins. Two of Coins usually says you're juggling too much. Either too much expectations put on you, or juggling too many opportunities, responsibilities. Anything else for air signs regarding these cards? The only thing that I keep getting with that card is that, like, the ideas that you might be sharing, or that somebody might be sharing with you, aren't necessarily realistic. In the sense that, like, maybe someone shared an idea with you and you're already juggling way too much, so it's like, dude, just back off. Or you might be sharing something with somebody else and they're juggling too much and they're like, dude, back off. And just like water signs, you guys got the Hanging Man, which suggests finding a different perspective. If something is not working out, look at it from a different angle. So it's almost like if you're sharing the ideas and the other person is juggling like way too much, you might be confused as to why they're so resistant to your ideas, but it's because you don't know you don't know their full story. You're not putting yourself in their shoes, or vice versa. You know, the other person sharing ideas with you, they might not understand why there's so much pushback. Anything else for air signs? Anything else for air signs? Anything else for air signs regarding these cards? Interesting, the Hermit card, which represents a very intentional self-isolation. It's kind of an energy of meditation to hear yourself and hear spirit better, to gain insight and answers, which fire signs had, I believe. So whoever is needing to gain this different perspective, honestly, I would even argue that both sides would need to, anytime we have the Hanging Man in any sort of fighting energy, even for, I think it was earth signs that had that, might have been water signs. However, anytime there's a fight, if you're having to fight and raise your voice, you are not being heard. So I would argue that both sides have an obligation, if we're wanting to reach a resolution and save this friendship, relationship, whatever, both sides have an obligation to find a different perspective and put themselves in the other person's shoes and find a level of understanding. That seems to be the theme within all signs today, is finding a level of understanding in where the other person is coming from. So it's like, let's say you're the one sharing ideas and somebody is pushing back because they're already overwhelmed and overworked and juggling way too much. You have an obligation to take a step back, take a break, back off a little bit, and understand where they're coming from. Try to put yourselves in their shoes and understand their full story. But also taking a step back and looking at your own perspective of why you feel so strongly about these ideas and why they need to hear it. And then vice versa, if somebody's sharing ideas with you and you're the one that's overwhelmed, gain a different perspective. Why do they feel the need to share these ideas so forcefully? Or, a different perspective in the sense of, are they sharing these ideas to make you be a part of it, or are they sharing it just because they're passionate about it and they're excited about it, and that they're not actually asking you to have any part in it? Or, take a little, perspective at what all you're juggling. Is there something that you can let go of in order to make space for this new idea? Are you blocking something that's meant for you? The only way you're going to get those answers is if you take a step back and get quiet a little bit. Find the silence. Find your own center. Oh. I lost my coffee for a minute. I have my tea, but I was thinking, I don't think I really finished my coffee. So then we have Six of Cups. And Six of Cups is kind of a nostalgic energy and focusing on past events, getting kind of wrapped up in memories. Maybe this person lives in nostalgia and fantasy land, and you're juggling so many real world expectations, and you're like, dude, just grow up. But if they're really excited about this, who are you to tear them down? It really feels like the Six of Cups is whoever is sharing the ideas, whoever is communicating this inspiration, they're very nostalgic. They're very dreamy in Fantasyland. And then there's the other person who's overworked, overwhelmed, and juggling the world's expectations of them. Anything else for air signs? Anything else for air signs? The only cards that are like specifically yours is the Two of Coins and the Six of Cups. All the other cards, one or more signs has received that card. Because then we also have Death, which I do believe was in Earth signs. Who knows? If you haven't, go watch all the other signs. There may be something in there for you. But the death and rebirth process is the death of an old version of oneself and the emergence of a new version of the self. One of you or both of you are going to have a little bit of maybe a death of illusion. That's what I'm seeing. You know, maybe this person who is sharing their ideas, who is super nostalgic, always in Fantasyland, and always dreaming up unrealistic ideas. They might be the ones having this death of illusion of, you know, hey man, you need to grow up a little bit and come into the real world. And so that might be a little bit of the inner child dying, because that's where our inspiration and our ideas lie, is the inner child, especially with communicating those dreams and desires and ideas. You know, that's very childlike. You know, you always have a child coming up to you and like, look at what I did, look at what I can do. Yeah, they're always wanting to share, but you know, there's a possibility you might be too harsh with this person if you're the Two of Coins, and it might damage their inner child a bit. On the flip side, you know, maybe whoever is sharing the ideas, maybe they stay centered and steadfast in their dreams and their ideas and their nostalgia, and they are creating the death of your illusion if you are the Two of Coins. The illusion that we constantly have to keep going. We constantly have to be mature and take care of our responsibilities, and we can never dream. So it's like you can kind of see where these polar extreme opposites are. And it doesn't do well to constantly be in go mode, responsibilities all the time, juggling too much, juggling too many expectations. Like, you're gonna burn out. That's not realistic. But then again, on the flip side, constantly being in this dream state and cooking up all of these fantasies and never taking a step into the real world, that's a little naive. So it's like both extremes have problems. It's about finding the middle ground. And like I said, it could be one of you that has this death of this illusion, or maybe both of you have this illusion shattered and you both find middle ground. But yeah, just like I told everybody else, it will take you a lot farther if you take a step back, reevaluate everything, meditate on the situation, and try to reach a level of understanding. That seems to be the biggest theme and message here, is find a level of understanding. See where the other person is coming from. Okay, that feels pretty complete. If this is where we part, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow. I think I'm gonna be continuing regardless, but it would be nice to have growth with the channel, and that can only happen if these videos get likes and comments and views and subscribers. So if you want to support the channel in that way, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, even if it's just like a green heart, whatever. It really does help the channel to grow. And I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye.